Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be discussing about private goods. Now, in the previous two videos, we have discussed about free goods and economic goods. And in the previous video, I told you guys that economic goods are further classified into private goods and public goods. So basically, when we talk about free goods versus economic goods, because the previous two videos were on these two different types of goods, the thing about free goods is that free goods, like we discussed in the previous video, they require no factors of production and there is hence no opportunity cost of production as well. Similarly, for economic goods, we talked about that it requires factors of production and hence there is an opportunity cost involved in production as well, right? So this is the basic difference between free goods and economic goods, right? We already discussed that. Now, economic goods are further classified into two types, that is private goods and public goods. So if you want to define what private goods are, obviously private goods are economic goods because they are a type of economic goods, but so are public goods, they are also economic goods. So, and like I said, private goods are economic goods, hence they require factors of production to produce, and hence there is an opportunity cost in production. Now, what this means is, then when we talk about private goods, so yes, they are economic goods, they require factors of production to produce, and there is an opportunity cost in production. But economic goods are further classified into private goods versus public goods. So economists, when study private goods and when they study public goods, which are both type of economic goods, economists then need to differentiate between private and public goods. So what are those differentiating characteristics or defining features of public goods defining features of private goods which will differentiate private goods from public goods. And those features are rivalrous and excludability. And that is rival and excludability. And in the next video, when you study public goods, you'll learn about non-rivalrous and non-excludability feature of public goods. So basically, the feature of rival and excludability, or rivalrous nature in consumption and excludability, is what is defining the distinct characteristic of private goods which differentiates it from public goods. So guys, when we talk about private goods, the defining feature of private goods is that these are those goods, because private goods need to be differentiated from public goods. Hence we say that private goods are goods. Yes, they are economic goods. We know that there's a factor of production required to produce, but so is with public goods as well, right? So what is the defining feature? Again, private goods are goods that are both rivalrous and excludable. These are the two distinct characteristics of private goods. Now, what do you mean by excludability? See, excludability, what do you mean by excludability? Excludability means that the producer or the seller who's selling the private goods, he can prevent the people who do not pay from consuming the good, which obviously, because, right, like I said, the seller can prevent people who do not pay from consuming the good. If you, let's say you don't buy a burger from McDonald's, so you cannot eat it because you haven't paid for it. Hence, the access to that burger from McDonald's depends on the payment that you will make for that burger, right? So you need to pay the price. So it makes it excludable then. Not everyone will have access to it. Only those people who actually end up paying for that burger will get access to it. So the feature of excludability is present. When we talk about rivalry, or you can say rivalrous in consumption, what we mean is that when one person consumes a private good, it obviously reduces the amount available for others. If I'm consuming a chocolate, then if I eat half of it, then only half of it remains for the other person. So the simple thing about private goods is that when one person consumes a private good, and this is just a chocolate example, but it's simple, that let's say I eat the whole chocolate. Let's say I eat the whole chocolate. So if I eat the whole chocolate, then there's no chocolate for you because I ate it. Similarly, when one person consumes a private good, it reduces the amount available for others. But in the next video, you'll study public goods with me. You will realize that these are not, the characteristics are the exact opposite. So for example, let's say for private goods, let's say when we talk about rivalry, let's say that if you eat a slice of pizza, so that particular slice is no longer available for anyone else. So what economists say is that consumption by one person simply diminishes another person's ability to consume it. That is what rivalrous in consumption means. And there are various examples of private goods like a cup of coffee, pizza, shoes, laptop, car, your air conditioner. These are all private goods, right? And the thing that you need to know, because this is what in past papers usually comes, that why private goods can be provided by markets. When we say that why private goods can be provided by markets, it simply means that why do sellers sell private goods in a market? Because later on in the next video, you'll study that public goods will not be provided by markets, right? And the reason why private goods can be provided by markets is because of their distinct features of excludability and rivalry, because they are both excludable and rivalrous. Meaning, number one, that, and because they are both excludable and rivalrous, because of that, what happens is that when we say that they're excludable and rivalrous, it means that Basically, it means that private goods can be effectively provided through the market mechanism of demand and supply, because again, like I said, they possess the features of excludability and rivalry. So since producers can exclude non-payers from consumption, right? Why and how? Because they're able to charge a price for these goods. So they can exclude non-payers from consumption. And obviously then this creates a profit incentive for firms to produce and sell such goods, right? Because only those will pay who are willing to pay for it, who can actually pay for it. On the other hand, consumers would be making we know that, like, if you study the nature of consumers make purchasing decisions based on their willingness and ability to pay, right? And the willingness and ability to pay of the consumers, it reflects the consumers' preferences and their income levels as well, right? So as a result, the market demand of the private good is technically representing the sum of individual preferences, while the market supply of the private goods is reflecting the firm's cost of production. And it is when the demand and supply interact with each other, in simple words, the individual preferences or the sum of the individual preferences and the firm's cost of production, when these preferences interact with the firm's cost of production, which is simply the interaction of demand and supply, it determines an equilibrium price and quantity where the good is allocated, where the good is allocated or sold to those people who value it the most and who can actually afford to pay for it. That is why we say that private goods can be sold in the markets. Therefore, resources are distributed efficiently, resulting in allocative efficiency, because private goods are sold efficiently in the market. But this efficiency that we're talking about is allocative efficiency, where we're saying that resources are distributed efficiently because private producers are charging a price and consumers are willing to pay for it. Hence, they both are happy. So this is actually going to contrast with public goods, right? This efficiency directly contrasts, with public goods. Because in public goods, you learn that there's a concept of non-excludability, and that concept of non-excludability leads to the free rider problem. And that is what discourages private provision. And you learn that there's a missing market for public goods requiring government intervention, or that requires government to provide public goods, because private producers will not provide it, right? So what we learn is that a private good is basically rivalrous and it is excludable, and it can be efficiently provided by markets, since consumers must pay for it to access it. If I want to buy a pizza, I need to pay to access the pizza. And also, one person's consumption reduces the availability for others, right? So there's an incentive for the buyer and the producer to charge a price and earn a profit for it. And that's why demand reflects the individual preferences, and it reflects the sum of the market demand reflects some of the combined preferences versus the firm's costs. And when these costs and preferences interact at an equilibrium price, then it results in allocative efficiency. And we say that private goods are efficiently distributed and sold in the markets. So that's one way to look at it, basically, right? In a certain context. So like I said, examples: food, clothing, cars, phones. These are everyday goods, durable goods that we buy and we consume individually, and these are all simply private goods. So that is what private goods is. You need to know that private goods are sold at a price and at a profit by the private producers, because they're both excludable and rivalrous, and this is what encourages private producers to actually sell them at a price and markets provide them efficiently, right? Pretty simple thing. Producers can charge a price that creates an incentive to supply them for profit. That's what I've written here as well, as you can see on your screens. Consumers decide how much to buy, which is obviously based on their willingness and ability to pay. And the market forces would then bring these producers and consumers together so that they could interact, which means that market forces of demand and supply will ultimately result in efficient resource allocation. So private goods, guys, are usually provided efficiently through the market mechanism, unlike public goods, which suffer from the free rider problem. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all in the next video, where we will be discussing public goods. Until then, take care.